On today's show, we talk NKU athletics, college basketball, college football, NFL, and end it with an interview of the Archbishop Moeller High School head football coach, Mark Elder. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the NKU Sports Talk radio show. I'm your host, Josh Kalb, joined with my co-hosts, Noah Miller and Bryan Bauer. Guys, how are we doing today?
I'm doing good. Couldn't be any better.
Doing pretty good. College basketball is coming up soon, and I'm excited.
And this wouldn't be an NKU Sports Talk show without talking about NKU athletics, so let's start with that. The men's basketball season started on Monday, and with some upcoming games, they play UC Claremont at home on Saturday at 2 p.m., and that game will be on ESPN Plus, as well as another team across the river, Cincinnati, next Wednesday. It is a home game at 7 p.m. on ESPN Plus. That Cincinnati game is huge.
Yeah, that's a big one for the NKU program. I think it's a good test to see where they are as a program, where they are with their coaching staff. They have a lot of returning seniors and a good core. With UC, they have a lot of transfers, but they got a lot of solid transfers. They got a 5-star recruit who went to Memphis and then transferred to UC. They have returning players in Jeremiah Davenport. They have 2 freshmen 4-stars coming in. It's going to be a tough team. I don't think this is going to be the strongest UC team NKU has seen compared to the previous team. And they might be able to formulate a game plan against this team because UC is going to need time to gel together and get together. But it's going to be a tough, fun game. I think the UC Claremont game before that will be a good warm-up and test for them to test out their game plan.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a big game for NKU just because you said NKU might have the advantage just because they've played together for a season before, and UC is going to need some time to gel together. I think that's going to be an important factor into this, and I think it's huge for NKU just because like facing a school like UC, just a bigger school in general, is just good.
Especially at home in Truist Arena. I mean, the lower bowl is already sold out, and as Drew mentioned on the show last time, he talked about students come out to the game. I mean, and come watch this team. I mean, they have great players like we mentioned, and Sam Vincent, Trayvon Faulkner, and their leading scorer, Marquez Warwick back. And so I wouldn't count out NKU. It is going to be tough, but it should be a good one for the Norse community and even the UC community.
Yeah, it's fun to see local teams play, like UC Xavier, UC Miami. So them to also come to NKU is a special event we almost probably never see because these bigger schools don't like going away. And it's just fun to watch. Now, I think what we need to look at, too, will be UC's size and athleticism. The NKU players are typically a little smaller and more like offensive with their three-point shooting, where they have a lot of tall men. They have 7-foot players where I don't think NKU has anyone probably taller than, 6'3" or 6'4"? So I think that's going to be a big thing to watch in that game is how they defend the paint and stop them from getting in close.
The women's basketball season starts tonight against Lipscomb. It is a home game at 7 p.m. on ESPN Plus. And I know I've mentioned the ESPN Plus a couple times. You can actually, it is not on national TV, but you can go to the ESPN website and find this game on here if you have a subscription. And it's awesome that the students get to have the opportunity to work behind the scenes with these games.
Oh yeah, for sure. It'll make sure that all the students get hands-on experience with some big-time equipment. Like, that's ESPN Plus. Like, it's not something that's huge, but it's bigger than most.
It's a professional setting, and it's nice. It's what makes our program here good for these kind of students. They get hands-on professional experience with ESPN broadcasts. It's not like a joke or anything, too, because they still have ESPN guidelines. They have to make sure things are clean. And I actually kind of want to talk about the girls' basketball game, too, a little bit. Just like the men's team, they have a lot of strong returners, and playing against Lipscomb, I think, is just a really fun, good matchup. And I'm just curious to see how their season will go because they were pretty good last year, too.
Sure.
And to see them rising and winning up with the men's team will bring a lot more, I think, attention to the program in general.
Yeah, for sure. Both the men's and women's basketball teams are really good. And I'm going to go back to a little bit what Bryan and Drew said about the students coming out. Students need to come out because there's nothing more than a team being able to be rallied behind their students in the student section, and especially basketball. Basketball is a huge student section sport.
I think, they need to. It's good for the school and for students coming in. You want that college lifestyle. You want to go to those big games with a loud crowd, drink and have fun in the student section. It's something I think we need to be stronger upon. And it would, because especially with maybe getting in a better conference or boosting up in general, getting better like ESPN broadcasts here, you want that revenue and that turnout.
Yeah, even with NKU not having a football team, because football is like, that's where everybody, I'm going to go to Ohio State because football, because I want that college experience. Well, NKU really doesn't have that. So to have the college experience in NKU, go out to a basketball game.
Yeah, come out. I mean, and these teams
and it's
aren't slouches either.
Yeah.
So, and like you said, it is free. So we have to lose. I mean, come out and watch these teams, because these teams could have a chance to even make the NCAA tournament. Who knows? And I know we talked a lot about basketball in our last show, but there are some sports here that are pretty talented. I mean, the volleyball is on a hot streak. 2 more regular season games remaining against Horizon League opponents, Youngstown State and Robert Morris. And the Horizon League Conference Tournament actually begins next weekend, running from Friday through Sunday, the 18th, 19th, and 20th. And again, the volleyball team has had some success in the past in the Horizon League Conference tournament, making it to the NCAA tournament from winning. And so here's another sport that you should come out and support.
Yeah, and they're on fire too. They are making their stride at the right moment. It's kind of like college basketball, even the NFL. You kind of want to make that stride near the end to the postseason, because they've also had previous experience in their conference tournament. They know how to win, and right now they're playing their best ball. They probably going to go to their tournament.
Yeah, and it's cool to see, because at the beginning of the season, it was not looking like they were going to be doing anything. And we were looking at the record from last year, and we thought, volleyball team has a great chance. It might even have one of the best sports, maybe the best sport at NKU. And then the season started. They played some rough teams, some ranked teams, and they really weren't having the start they wanted to. And now it's coming around, and they're winning.
They're finding their stride, and like you said, just at the right time. And another sport, men's and women's cross country, they participated in the Horizon League Championship race. The men's finished 6th, the women's finished 7th, and they participate in the NCAA Southeast Regional tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. in Louisville at Tom Sawyer Park. And again, this is a team that actually has some really good athletes that you should support. I know it's not as easy to come to a cross-country race as it is, but even through social media, or if you see an athlete, you could just talk to them about it, because they appreciate it when it's overlooked like it is.
Yeah, and 6th place in a running event like that, that's actually not bad. Like, it might sound bad, but like typically in a cross-country race, you got 40 teams going. Like, top 6 is actually pretty solid for a cross-country meet.
And so that's all we have about that for now. Of course, you have some more sports coming later in the year, and as those get there, we'll talk about those. But I want to talk about college basketball, which started this week, and I want to start with the team that's probably the biggest besides NKU as far as fans go, which is the University of Kentucky. Tomorrow night versus Duquesne, but in the next week, they have a really tough schedule. They play in the Champions Classic against Michigan State, and then they head to Gonzaga on November 20th, a game I don't think anyone thought either team would participate in, and that is awesome for the sport.
Oh, yeah. Those Michigan State and Gonzaga are 2 of some of the best programs in college basketball. This is the best, I think, season of sports ever, because we still got college football, NFL, and now we got college basketball. In terms of Gonzaga, it's still a strong team. Whenever you have a coach of that standard, it doesn't matter what league you are, because, yeah, they're not in a power conference, but that doesn't matter. This is good, because Kentucky's going to get tested, and Kentucky's always a good team. I expect them to get probably one of the 2. I don't know a whole lot about this Gonzaga team, but I know the Michigan State team's pretty tough, and I think Kentucky could probably win both.
Yeah, I feel like Kentucky's still trying to find themselves, because last year they really didn't have the season they wanted to, or the season that they live up to, because usually Kentucky, they go losing probably 3 games out of the whole season, and then going deep into the tournament. And last year, really, they didn't have the start or the ending they felt like they wanted to.
Yeah, and the start, like you mentioned, was that loss to Duke in the Champions Classic. And Kentucky usually does play Michigan State well in this little tournament. Of course, Kansas being the other team. Kansas-Duke game will be a big one. But the team right across the river, I know we talked about their game against NKU, but University of Cincinnati. Tonight they play Cleveland State, and then Sunday they play Eastern Kentucky University. So there's 2 Kentucky schools back-to-back. And not just for UC, but also for EKU, which is in kind of the same position as NKU.
Yeah, I think too the way that UC decided the schedule, they wanted this kind of to schedule a softer schedule, not just in terms of like strength of schedule, but these teams are close because like I said, they need to gel together. There's a lot of new pieces. Last season was rough, and coming back from COVID, I think they're just looking to make everything easier, gel together. But Eastern Kentucky's not a solid opponent either. They did pretty good last year, and they even beat NKU last year. Like that, it's a strong team. It's just unfortunately, they view these mid-major teams as just not good. But yeah, I think it's just going to be a good practice for this young new UC team.
And as someone from Cincinnati that has kept up with the program, Wes Miller has been going hard in recruiting. So it has to be kind of refreshing with some of the problems in the last few years and Mick Cronin leaving to now see a coach really getting his head and getting a head start into the recruiting.
It's completely refreshing. I am so excited that a program like UC finally has someone that wants to go and get the big dogs. Mick Cronin was a decent coach, but he would not recruit, especially if he was competing against like Kansas or West Virginia or Duke. They wouldn't do it. John Brannon, he wasn't there long enough for that. But we haven't seen these caliber of players being recruited since Bob Huggins in the 90s. So it's fun to see them getting this kind of talent because UC is a historic program. They may not be a blue blood, but they've been the Final Fours. They won 2 national championships. They have history, and they can win these recruiting battles. And we finally have someone, too, that wants to bring back alumni, kind of like NKU, how they want to bring back alumni in that historic program. It's so exciting to finally see maybe we can finally get a team that can break this double weekend kind of like curse. They haven't been to a Sweet 16 since 2012, and I think Wes Miller can actually get it done.
And was a great hire. I know some people might have questioned it because they thought, because he was brought up in the race for the North Carolina job, and they're like, why would he go there? There's some people that said, why would he go there? Well, there's your proof in the pudding. Look what he's doing with recruiting. And their crosstown rival, the Xavier Musketeers, tomorrow versus Montana. Then they have another kind of, for them, an easy one, as you say, but maybe not. And then next Friday against Fairfield, and then next Friday is versus Indiana, finally the big test. And Xavier did lose their leading player from last season, Paul Scruggs, but they have some good players back, and no better test than against the Hoosiers.
Yeah, and they have Sean Miller back, and I know, say what you want about the guy, I'm not a big fan of him either. He's a good coach. He's definitely recruited some big pieces. I think they even got like a 5-star coming in. Indiana's struggled. Like they were a little bit better last year, but I still don't think that program knows where they're at. I don't know if that head coach they have is as good as people think. I think Xavier's probably going to get a nice Big Ten win on the road.
And then Ohio State opens with 2 easy ones, Charleston Southern and Eastern Illinois. And the Buckeyes are historically have been really good each year. They just kind of like UC, who has that history, that historic rich background. Ohio State has that too, but then they've struggled in the recent years with getting out into those second weekends of March Madness. They got upset by Oral Roberts, a 15 seed, just a couple years ago. And so Chris Holtman and the Buckeyes, again, these are 2 easy ones, but the Big Ten, it's interesting to see how they'll compete this year.
Ohio State's good every year. They make the tournament every year. It is interesting to see Chris Holtman kind of struggling in the second weekend with a much more at Butler. He's had really good teams, but with Ohio State, he can get much talented teams. So it's a little interesting to see that. And it's weird to me. I know they're a football school, but I think that basketball team probably deserves more love than they get. Like when you talk to an Ohio State fan, they probably couldn't name 2 players on the team. Let's be serious.
And yet they're really talented.
And yet they're really talented, and they go to the tournament every year. It's kind of sad to see, but I mean, they still get support, just not as much as they probably should.
And then Louisville, we talked about before the show how they lost that exhibition to Lenoir-Rhyne. And on Saturday, they face Wright State, a Horizon League opponent, a team that is near the top of the standings every single year in the Horizon League. And this is a big upset watch.
Yeah, I Louisville lost their coach. They've lost a lot of players, I think, to the transfer portal. They don't know really where they're at. They don't know what their identity is. And when you have a team like that and you come into Wright State, they lost pieces, but they know who they are. They have a coach that's been there for years. That team, if they play and athleticize them, they can beat Louisville.
So I got a question for you, Josh. So since Louisville's playing Wright State, we're NKU students, so we obviously don't want Wright State to win this because they're in the Horizon League. But you're a Kentucky guy, so why would you want Louisville to win? Who are you taking? Who would you want to win between Louisville and Wright State?
Unfortunately, I have to go Wright State because
it helps NKU.
Exactly. Because if NKU beats Wright State, talk about a good resume for March Madness.
Yeah, it becomes a marquee win because Wright State beat Louisville, who's historically been good. So it only benefits NKU. And he likes UK. Well, UK's rival loss. It's kind of a win-win.
Yeah, and I do understand the Wright State and Northern Kentucky rival. But Wright State, I do like seeing those small teams win. I mean, I feel like it's just better overall for the branding of college basketball.
And the rivalry.
It is.
It's better when your rival is good.
Yeah.
You want them both to be good. I've seen UC and Miami in football, how they win 16 straight in a row, and then you're just talking about not even wanting the rivalry anymore. It's fun to have good teams and back and forth.
And speaking of good teams, there are a lot of other great college basketball games coming up, but college football, I can't believe it's went this fast. It's in week 11 coming up. And one of the top games I wanted to mention was Alabama at Ole Miss. Nick Saban faces his former assistant Lane Kiffin. And we know Lane Kiffin likes to talk. We know how Nick Saban is. And Alabama with that loss to Tennessee facing this Ole Miss team. I want to say don't count out Ole Miss, but I can't imagine the Rebels beating the Crimson Tide.
I think with Ole Miss taking that loss, we've seen a lot more. We kind of peeled through the curtain and kind of saw the real Ole Miss team and kind of how you can game plan around them and maybe some of their weaknesses. And Nick Saban has, the last time he lost to an assistant, I believe, was Jimbo Fisher, and that was he's 1-20 plus against his former assistants. I just don't see exactly how he'll lose this game. I know if Ole Miss plays their high-powered offense, kind of like Tennessee, and their defense bends, doesn't break, they can win. But I just don't think this team's ready to beat the top dogs in the SEC. But it could go either way. I would not be shocked if Ole Miss wins, but Alabama's still Alabama. I mean,
and they're always going to be. When you have a quarterback like Bryce Young and a coach like Nick Saban, they're always going to be. And with that win over Mississippi State, they had them shut out 30-0 until the final drive for Mississippi State, and they scored a touchdown. Well, I mean, I'm sure Nick Saban was not happy with that loss to Tennessee, and you do not want to catch Nick Saban angry because they're going to blow you out. I mean, that's all there is to it.
Yeah.
So as someone who keeps up with UC, Brian, like yourself, this is a big one. UCF at Tulane.
This right here will not only determine will UCF or Tulane be in the championship, it can also impact UC's chances. If Tulane beats UCF and UC beats Tulane, UC hosts the AAC championship. Now, if Tulane loses the UCF, but UC beats Tulane, UC's still in it. They got to go back to Orlando, and they have struggled at Orlando. At least this year, the offense, pitiful. They could not move the ball to save their lives the whole game. The defense looked worn out and struggled. I think Luke Fickell got outcoached, and I don't want to bad talk UCF's coach, but I don't think he's the greatest ever. He got fired from Auburn. He had a decent season, but I don't know where this UC team's at. I think coming up, they need to just figure out where their offense is. The offensive line let him get sacked. Our quarterback's hurt, and he doesn't know what to do. But Tulane's good. Tulane's ranked. If Tulane wins this game, I am excited to see a ranked Tulane come to Nippert. I never expected it. Tulane's been awful for so long, and to see a team like that come in, it's going to be fun. Tulane could win the AAC and get a Cotton Bowl bid for all I know.
And UC kind of seems like the Alabama of the AAC. It's like even if they struggle in certain games, you just can't count them out against these kind of opponents. So like you said, Tulane in Nippert Stadium would be wild.
And UC has, I think, other than Clemson, has the longest home winning streak. They're undefeated at home in 3 years. And I don't think Tulane can come in and beat them. That home advantage is just so good. It gets so loud in there because the way it's a dome, yeah, it's only 40,000 plus students, but it's loud. And I've seen offenses get rattled and get penalties. So I would like Tulane to win this because that means Tulane has to come back to back to Nippert, and UC still has a chance at a Cotton Bowl. I think they just need to win out. They need to figure out their offensive pieces so the defense isn't on the field as much because their corners are kind of weak. Some of their corners are hurt, and they got freshmen playing in there. I'm excited to see this too because UCF and Tulane are high offensive powered teams. This game, they could both have 40-plus points for all I know.
Yeah, and so you might not think this is a big game, but it is. And in reality, it is. And this might be one of the most underrated games of the season.
It's probably the top G5 team or the top G5 game of the year.
I agree. And TCU at Texas, going back to one of the Power 5 schools. I know Texas is not what they were way back when. I know they've had their struggles this season, but they do have a pretty good offense when their offense is rolling. But TCU is just on fire right now. I mean, their offense is so good. Max Dugan, their quarterback, Sonny Dykes, they just have a connection that's just working right now, no matter what.
Yeah, I think them going to Texas is going to prove difficult. This is a rivalry game. When it comes to record, shut it up. It does not matter. It does not matter. But yeah, TCU's offense is so good. Sonny Dykes just knows how to coach. If TCU wants a real shot at the playoffs, they need to beat this Texas team. And this Texas team, they want to win. Not only is that coach probably kind of getting into the warm seat in terms of his job, this is a rivalry game. They want to bounce back and win this, and they might even have a shot at the Big 12.
North Carolina at Wake Forest, we're kind of hitting all Power 5 conferences. The ACC, UNC, after kind of struggling at the beginning of the season, starting slowly to move up the rankings. Wake Forest just got destroyed by Louisville. I don't think anyone saw that coming, but they did almost defeat the Clemson Tigers in a close one in double overtime. And at times, this Wake Forest offense can be powerful. I mean, Sam Hartman's an NFL quarterback, but North Carolina's offense with Drake May and having a veteran head coach like Mac Brown, I think this is another really good game that could be a shootout.
Yeah, I think this is a game, too, where we see where Wake Forest energy is. After losing to Clemson and then getting blown out by Louisville, who's not a great team, by the way, it's demoralizing. So I'm curious to see, will they come out, will they try and score points and be energized, or are they going to come in kind of demoralized and then just get smacked? I wouldn't be shocked if they lose by 30 in this game. It all, I think, boils down to the leadership on Wake Forest, because Wake Forest, that quarterback's good. No matter what the record is, he is a great quarterback. But North Carolina, they only have one loss. They can still compete for the top of the ACC, and they have a slim chance at the playoffs, but they have to beat Clemson in their conference championship game.
I want to go back to UC. They play East Carolina. East Carolina actually just destroyed UCF. So that goes back to that whole AAC at the top of the standings situation. East Carolina coming to the Bearcats. The Bearcats should win, but you never know.
If you told me that ECU was going to come in the Nippert being a good team at the beginning of the season, I think I would have laughed. I would not expect they have 6 wins. They smacked UCF, who just beat UC, who was a ranked team. I mean, this is going to be a tough game. Nippert, they should win, but this is the first time I've ever been excited to see ECU Pirates in my life. They got a quarterback who seems he's been there for 15 years. He knows what he's doing. He knows how to play the game. If they don't stop that quarterback, especially with how the defense played against UCF, it's going to be a long day.
I want to talk about the NFL. I know we after talking about some college football, and there are some more local games going on. Indiana, Ohio State, Vanderbilt at Kentucky, and then Louisville, who just beat Wake Forest at Clemson. But the Bengals are on a bye week coming off the Panthers game. The Bengals, with their struggles in the AFC North, 0-3, you wouldn't think it, but they still have a good shot at making the playoffs with that record because of once you get outside of some of those one or two teams in the AFC, it kind of like goes down because of the AFC South struggling this year. And so these games coming up after this bye week, it will be something to watch.
Yeah, it almost feels like every division in the entire NFL is struggling, unless if you're in the NFC East. But it seems like, but especially the AFC, the Bengals, don't count them out. They could still win division. The Ravens, you never know. They could blow a lead again. It can, like, stuff can happen. It's the NFL. Anything can happen. But the Bengals, yeah, they're not out of it yet. They still have a chance for division. And like you said, out of the big teams out of the AFC, like Chiefs, Bills, that's pretty much it. Pretty much it. Every other team has a good chance.
No, I think both of you guys are a little more optimistic than I am. But if I want to look at through the lens of not being a fan, yeah, all the divisions have been playing poorly. Everyone who thought the AFC West, everyone was going to win a Super Bowl in that division. You got the Chiefs who are the only ones that are good. The Justin Herbert's hurt. For this bye, though, I'm hoping the team needs to get healthy. They need to figure out what the heck to do with the offense. And there's still issues with the offensive line. A lot of this stuff isn't going to get fixed. With the 4-4 record and the offense struggling, this might just be what the offense is. This might not be something that they're going to fix down the line. This might be, we have to win this way. We have to rely on the defense. And with the upcoming schedule, they're 4-4 and they're easier part of the schedule.
Yeah.
Only get harder. If this offense can continuously score 35 points, and with Joe Burrow, I think it's always a 50-50, even if they're playing the Bills. But I'm worried. Like you said, the AFC, that was weak. Maybe they can sneak in 9-8 in the wild card, which that's all you need. They caught fire in a bottle last year and went to a Super Bowl. So I'm curious to see, will Zach Taylor figure it out?
Yeah, like those wins against the 49ers and Chiefs late. That was huge because kind of early on, people were like, I don't know, it's just another year for the Bengals. But then they caught fire late, which is the best time to do it.
This is when you look back at the Steelers game and like when they were healthy, losing some of those games, it hurts you. It just makes you look back to like, man, if we beat the Steelers, we'd be whatever, one more win above.
Yeah.
And there's so many what ifs in the NFL. It's probably one of the biggest sports for what ifs.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
There are a lot of great games. I can't believe I'm saying this, but the Vikings at the Bills is a big game. I mean, the Vikings are atop of the NFC North, which hurts. And they face the Bills, who are just rolling right now. And with the Vikings acquisition of the Lions star tight end, TJ Hawkinson, these are two dominant offenses going at each other.
Yeah, this is going to be an amazing game. Maybe not the quarterbacks, but Kirk Cousins, he's really not that bad. He's really not. People just like to hate on him because of his primetime record or his primetime stats.
He's kind of like Andy Dalton.
Exactly. But Kirk Cousins is good. They have Justin Jefferson, Dalvin Cook. Now they have TJ Hawkinson. So they have a complete team now. And that defense is pretty good. The Bills are the Bills. They're good. So no need to explain the Bills. Everybody knows why the Bills are good.
The Thursday night game, so tonight, we've seen a common theme, the Falcons and the Panthers. So real quick, I want to get everyone's picks for tonight's game.
The Falcons. The Panthers basically sold away their entire team. Is Baker Mayfield even on the team anymore? What's he doing?
No, I think he's hurt.
Yeah,
so
okay.
they have what, the rookie starting. So yeah,
PJ Walker.
I'm taking the Falcons.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to.
PJ Walker did make an amazing throw.
He did
not that long ago when they last played.
Yep.
So.
And some other games, Chargers at 49ers, Cardinals at Rams, and Cowboys and Packers. Some great games. And so we are going to have an interview next with the head coach of Archbishop Moeller High School, a powerhouse in Ohio, Mr. Mark Elder. Stay tuned for that. We'll have that next on NKU Sports Talk Radio Show. Is the head coach of Moeller High School's football team, Mr. Mark Elder. Mark, thank you for joining us this morning. We surely do appreciate it, especially in this busy time of the year with the postseason coming up.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate you having me on.
So I'll just start off with asking, do you mind just telling us some of the places you've been and how long you've coached and where you've coached in the past?
Sure. Well, been at Moeller. This is year 3 here at Moeller. This was my first job in high school. So prior to that, I was in college for a long time. I bounced around from buzz them real quick. Akron. So I was a GA at Akron in 2000 and 2001, then went to Lehigh, then to Iona, then to Wayne State, then to Michigan, then to Central Michigan, then to Cincinnati, then to Tennessee, then to Eastern Kentucky, and then to Moeller.
Wow. A lot of experience there.
Bounced around a bunch. And that's kind of the college world at this point in time. So they were all logical moves and things along those lines, but certainly didn't get to unpack a whole bunch.
Yeah. So in your opinion, what would be the greatest strength and weakness of being a coach?
Well, I mean, the positive, the fun part is a bunch of things. One, you get to make a positive impact, or you hope to make a positive impact upon the players that you're coaching, and not just in helping them become better football players, but also better men and vision for their plan for the future, opportunities to help them grow, in resiliency and handling success and handling failure, all those types of things. And you get to do it in through something that you're passionate about, which is the game of football. I really enjoy the game and get to be a part of guys' journeys in something that you're hopefully sharing a mutual passion with. And some of the downsides, and probably more so college than high school, but just the time away from family, and high school is great. I mean, you get to spend a ton of time with your family, and you really, I mean, it's probably a little bit more hours than someone that's working a 9 to 5 or something like that. But in college, I mean, it's pretty tough on the family. You don't get to spend much time with those others, and hence why I'm here right now.
So, as you mentioned, you've been to some Power 5 schools, including Tennessee, a big SEC school. It's playing very well this season, actually. So, out of all places you've been, what has been your favorite moment as a coach, whether that be a head coach or an assistant?
I don't know. I mean, there's from the football standpoint, there's certain things that you remember quite a bit. And I was a graduate assistant at the University of Michigan in 2006, and I'll never forget that undefeated versus undefeated game. I mean, that was, as far as a playing situation and just the significance of a game and so forth. That was a really, really neat experience to be a part of. One of the more rewarding moments I had as a guy that I recruited years ago at a school, 15 years ago at this point, probably. And he'd come from a really tough background and even had his struggles in college and so forth. But he didn't graduate on time, but he, whatever it was, 5-6 years after I was done coaching him, reached out because he had just graduated and he'd come from an extremely tough background and so forth. That was a really rewarding experience of obviously having made a positive impact because, and we kept in touch, but for him to want to reach out to me when he graduated, he was very proud of himself, as he should have been from the background that he had come from. I mean, certainly, I don't think he knew his parents, but obviously he was the first in line to graduate, and to get that message years later for him to think of me. And that was really touching for me. And then from an actual coaching standpoint, one of the more proud moments I had was a year ago, when we played Princeton and Moeller was in a tough situation walking in the door, just hadn't had a ton of success, a lot of turnover and things along those lines. And, in year 2, we were in the playoffs and they shot out to a quick 14-0 lead. And to see just how our guys reacted. I mean, there was just zero reaction in a negative light to how those circumstances of the game were, and to feel like we had brought a group together that just was able to stay steady Eddie through good and bad, and persevere through a tough situation and not get overly fazed by it. A game that we ended up winning. I mean, that was a pretty proud moment. I noticed it at the time, but after the game, I really reflected and felt like that was a fantastic job that that group had done, and the coaching staff had been able to put us in, put the young men in that situation to feel that way, despite what could have been a very obvious panic. We're down 14-0, 90 seconds into a game. I felt really proud of that moment.
And you said that you just like the way your guys responded and see how they responded. So do you hold them to a certain standard of like playing, since you all are like the top team in the state, and or is it more of you just hold them to a standard of more of like character wise?
What was the latter part? More holding a standard of
Character.
I mean, there's two separate deals there. So, there is the aspect of the actual football side of things, and we do talk about, I mean, whether you win or lose. I mean, there is a you're hoping to get the same performance, the same standard of preparation, the same standard of focus and so forth from the group to perform at the same level. And I mean, just the realities of it are, you want to go win every game, but the most important thing is just putting your best foot forward every single weekend, because you don't really control the circumstance of the team on the other side. I mean, we go play Cincinnati Bengals, they'll beat us by 200 points. It doesn't matter, what we would do, like they're just going to be better. And obviously that's an extreme example, but you don't control how good the team is that's across from you, but you do control your preparation, your focus, and your personal performance. And so we try to focus on those things. Those are the things that we can control. We try to focus on our attitude and belief and how we're going to react to certain situations, and try to have that be just a very consistent and steady Eddie approach to how we're going to do things. And then, as far as the character things and things along those lines, I mean, we do talk about those things a lot, of just doing the right thing and not taking the shortcuts and doing the things that you should be doing on the field and in the classroom, in the community, and things along those lines. I think our guys know that, yeah, I want to win and we all want to win, but we're not gonna do things the wrong way, and we'll sit guys down if they're not doing things the right way, and they know that, and they know that they got to live up to the standards and obligations that we're setting forth for them.
So I know Luke Fickle's sons have played at Moeller, and I think he currently has some. What is it like having almost like a special relationship with a potential recruiter for your kids and just a high profile coach?
Yeah, so I actually GA'd for Coach Fickle years ago in my first job at the University of Akron. I mean, it was a young pup coach just out of college and didn't know what I was doing, and he was the defensive line coach there, and built a rapport with him at that point in time. And, I could see from that age, you could even see he was a fairly young coach himself, but you could tell he just kind of had a way about himself that he was going to be extremely successful. And I've always, from that time, because he was one of the guys that I was around first when I was in coaching, looked up to Coach Fickle quite a bit as far as a mentor and things along those lines, and just how he conducted himself. And, so we've had a relationship even before I came here to Moeller and in coaching, where he's recruiting our players, and walked in the door. I actually held Landon when he was a little baby. That's their oldest son. And because Amy had brought him to the office and so forth. So came full circle. My first year here at Moeller, Landon's a senior offensive lineman, and I loved Landon and still have a good relationship with Landon, and just love the way he played the game. He had a mean, nasty side to him, and that's a needed thing around here. We got a bunch of nice guys, and he had a mean, nasty side to him. And, we still have a good rapport. I like to say that I helped in his journey and getting him moving in the right direction, but great relationship there. And Aiden and Ashton are freshmen here now. I'm sure that relationship will build. I mean, they're on the freshman team right now, so I'm not in daily contact with those guys, but they're outstanding young men. And I have started a relationship with those guys. They're fun to be around. And I mean, the Fickle family in general, they're first-class people. I know that they get seen from afar, but I have been around them. And what you see is what you get. I mean, they are really first-class people, and appreciative that they have their kids here, and looking forward to continuing to build those relationships.
A question about the athletes. Moeller has had a lot of great athletes that have went into college athletics. So for you, how important is it to develop those guys so they can play at that next level and play at some of these big Division I schools?
Yeah, well, I think I look at that as a big personal mission for me here as a coach is helping guys be able to fulfill their goals and dreams to be able to play at the next level. And obviously the guys that are going to the major places get a lot more fanfare, but I don't put any more excitement into or any more stock into the guy that's going to have 50 offers from every major school and all those types of things versus the guy that's going to have small schools that are and one or two opportunities. I mean, to me, those are one and the same for me. And really the difference is just, I mean, the one guy's going to have a lot of God-given ability and so forth. And then the other guys, you're going to have enough to obviously go on and play in college, but maybe not have just been gifted quite as much as far as the skill set is concerned, but they're both wins, I mean, like whether someone's going and they're going to go play at the University of Cincinnati or Ohio State or Michigan or Tennessee or whatever one of those places are, or whether they're going to go to a Division II or Division III or NAIA school, they're both an opportunity for a young man to go on and further his education at the next level and to continue to play the game. And I do work hard to try to help these guys find those opportunities and help connect the dots. My background in college coaching, I mean, that's you end up having a circle of first and secondary friends that you either worked with or did camp with or just have run into through the years in recruiting. And so I do think it's a benefit that I have some of those connections and am able to reach out to guys that I know pretty well personally and try to help connect the dots for this guy to find the right fit and hopefully find a marriage between the young man and the school. But regardless of the level, I mean, the opportunities for the guys is great. And where they're going to play at, I mean, we're going to do our best job to help develop them, help put them in the right kind of, as you say, the seat on the bus on our team to, fulfill what they're best at and be able to highlight what they're capable of. But those guys are getting those opportunities, not because of me, but because of, somewhat of its God-given ability, but then what they've done with that God-given ability, how they've worked to progress, how focused they are to become the best football player that they can be. And those guys they're earning those opportunities. I'm just trying to be a catalyst to help connect the dots.
Yeah, you mentioned you coached all over the country, really. And so who would be like the most famous player or person that you've coached?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, at Tennessee, and whether I was their position coach or not, but at Tennessee, there's a bunch of guys that are, when you go through just a GA at Michigan, but there was a bunch of guys there that went on and had fantastic careers. And I think there's I think Brandon's still playing, but yeah, there's a bunch there. And then Central Michigan, I mean, Nick Ballore, I was his position coach. He's still playing. Antonio Brown was there. JJ Watt was there for the first year. We recruited Eric Fisher, and he played for us our last year there. He's a first overall pick. At Cincinnati, I was Travis's position coach for a year. I was Pete. I bounced around there a bunch of Cincinnati, but I was Kelsey's position coach for a year. I was Pete's position coach for a year. We had a bunch of guys. Derek Wolf is I think he's still playing. And we had a bunch of guys there. Cincinnati and Tennessee. There was, that I love that tight end group there. They were a bunch of fun. We had several specialists that went on, but we had a bunch of guys. I mean, Dobbs is still playing, and Jennings is still playing. Kamara is still playing. There are a bunch of dudes that are still playing that are in that group there. So, and that's fun and neat and all, but some of the other, the ones that you take a ton of pride in are not necessarily the ones that are that first overall pick. I mean, Alex Ellis was a former walk-on that at Tennessee, and I mean, the higher the level, the more difficult it is for a walk-on to ever even get a shot. And he went from a walk-on quarterback, ended up in my room at tight ends, and earned a scholarship, and ended up playing a couple years in the NFL. A great relationship with Nick Ballore, who's out in Seattle now. And again, these are guys you wouldn't necessarily know. But Nick had like 2 scholarship offers coming out of high school, and he's in year like 12. I mean, like, he's going to be a freaking grandpa by the time he retires, I mean, and that's a guy that went undrafted and unbelievable work ethic and feel fortunate. I mean, the guys like that, I feel fortunate that they were a part of my life, and I was a small piece of theirs.
Just when it comes to the playoffs, I was curious if like practice is any different, or maybe put more emphasis on a bigger game than a regular season game, or is it kind of like just a normal practice?
Same old, man. We're steady Eddie. So I will say this: our goal is we obviously want to win every game and things like that. And we lost last week and so forth. But our ultimate goal is, and it has been from the time that we got here with the circumstances of the playoffs. So with the playoffs and the structure of the playoffs, the way they are right now, it's totally different than when I was going through. When I was coming through, there was 4 teams that made it, and so you better find a way to play your best ball every single week, because if only 4 teams are making, I mean, shoot, I think we would we would probably be clinched at this point if there's only 4 teams, but I'm not 100% sure even on that. So you just sit there and go, that's scary to think that you're 8-1 with the schedule that we've had, and we lose 1 game by 6 points, and maybe we wouldn't still be in it. That's crazy. So it's so different now, where there's I think it's like 18 teams in the region, 16 teams make it. I mean, realistically, with the record that Massillon has right now, we probably were locked going into week 2 for the playoffs this year. So we still want to win all the games, but there's a different emphasis. I mean, we're not trying to peak in week 1 or for that matter, week 10. We're trying to play our best football at the end of the season, and that there's a lot that goes into that, and how we who we play, how much we play people, how things go. I mean, those are things that all play a part in that, but we're trying to play our best football at the end, and hoping that's what I think that we've done that the past 2 years. I'm hoping that's what we're going to be able to do again this year. And so, not that I don't want to win a game, not that we're ever hoping to lose, but once you're in the playoffs, there is a little bit of a irrelevant factor to some of these games, other than the fact that you're a competitor and you want to win. So we're hoping to be peaking still in front of us, like as swimmers, shave and taper to try to do their best at wherever that end goal should be for them. We're still at that point in time, and we're not tapered and shaved yet, so we're hoping to do that coming up. Now with playoffs, I mean, every week we have a standard routine on how our practices go, slightly adjust things based upon just simply what is needed for that week. If a team's kicking the ball into the end zone 100% of the time, we might cut one of our kickoff return periods because they're probably going to kick in the end zone against us too, and put a different special team emphasis. Maybe they're really difficult to defend on their punt formation, so we might just flip that, something small like that. Our individual or group stuff, like if there's a bigger emphasis that we need to put in for that week because of the what we see on film, we might slightly tweak that stuff, but our practices are fairly repetitive as far as what we're doing. There's very minor details, changes to things. I will say this is a long season. I mean, we've been going at it for a long time, since June. We go 4 days a week in the summer. There's a ball and ball going on, but we're 4 days a week all summer and so forth. So this is starting to get to be a grind on the guys. So we do trim our practices down a little bit. Like it will be a little bit less in week, hopefully 13 or 14 than it was in week 1, so we will trim some things back. We'll cut down some of our reps just because it's starting to get to be a long season. I mean, if you are so blessed to make it to the state championship game, I mean, that's an NFL regular season basically, and plus you've got your scrimmages and all that type of stuff. So we do trim things back a little bit, but our practices by and large will look the same. Again, we're taking the weekend off this weekend, Saturday and Sunday. We're giving our players off just to, again, trying to let them mentally and physically refresh, but we'll get back into regular prep and our normal deal from then forward.
So that's about all we have. I wanted to end it though on a more of a fun question. I know it's kind of early, but who's your pick to win the Super Bowl this year in the NFL?
Bengals, baby, of course. Who else?
Is there some bias there, or?
Absolutely, there is. It's my squad, man.
Oh, I like
Born and
that.
raised here in Cincinnati. That is undoubtedly the team I'm always rooting for. So, no question, 100% guaranteed Bengals.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah, appreciate you guys having me on.